Most people don't lose peace because life is hard. They lose it because they argue with what they cannot control. I am Epictetus. I was born a slave in Rome, and I lived most of my life with a body that was broken and a freedom that was taken from me. But I learned something that most free men never learn, that no one can take your mind unless you hand it to them. I spent my years teaching in a small school, speaking to anyone who would listen. And what I taught then is still true now, perhaps more than ever. You are living in a time of endless noise, endless opinion, endless things demanding your attention and your anger. And I see so many of you good people, people who have worked hard, raised families, built lives, carrying a heaviness that doesn't come from the world, but from how you're holding it. Let me tell you about a man I would have met if I were alive in your time. He's 63. He worked for the same company for 37 years. He showed up early, stayed late, missed birthdays and ball games because he believed loyalty mattered. Then one day, without much warning, they let him go. Restructuring, they called it. They gave him a handshake, a small severance, and sent him home. He sat in his kitchen that afternoon and felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Insignificance. He had given them his best years, and they dismissed him like he'd never mattered at all. He replayed conversations in his mind, wondered what he did wrong, whether he should have fought harder, spoken up more, played the game better. He felt angry. He felt betrayed. He told his wife he was fine, but at night he couldn't sleep. Now let me ask you this, because I think many of you know this feeling. When something like that happens, when you are disrespected, overlooked, discarded, where does your mind go? Do you replay it? Do you imagine what you should have said? Do you lie awake, wanting them to see what they lost? Wanting an apology that will never come? Do you carry that moment with you into the next day and the day after, until it becomes a weight you didn't ask for but can't put down? If I were there, I would have sat with that man, and I would have said this: you are angry because you believe they owed you something. Respect, loyalty, gratitude. But they didn't. No one does. You gave your time freely. You made a choice every day to show up. That was yours. Their response was never yours. And now you are suffering, not because of what they did, but because you are fighting with something you never controlled. I would have told him to take back his mind. Not his job that's gone, not their respect that was never his to control, but his mind, his peace, his sense of who he is. Those things are still his, and no company, no boss, no letter or meeting or severance package can take them unless he lets them. This is what I taught, and this is what I still believe. You do not control what happens to you, but you control how you meet it. You control what you make it mean. That man's dignity was never tied to whether they kept him or let him go. His dignity was in how he carried himself after. And if he spends the rest of his years bitter, replaying an injustice he cannot undo, then he has given them more than 37 years. He has given them his freedom. Let me be clear. I am not telling you to accept mistreatment. I am not telling you to be passive. I am telling you that your power is not in changing their minds. Your power is in refusing to let their actions define your worth. You are not what they said about you. You are not the job you lost, the respect you didn't get, the recognition that never came. You are the one who decides what you are, and that is a freedom no one can take. I knew a student once who came to me in despair. He had been publicly humiliated by a man of higher status. The man had mocked him in front of others, questioned his intelligence, made him feel small. My student was devastated. He wanted to fight back, to prove the man wrong, to make him pay for the insults. I asked him, whose opinion of you matters more, yours or his? He said, mine. I said, then why are you letting his words decide how you feel? He looked at me, confused. I continued, if a man calls you a thief and you are not a thief, does that make you one? He said, no. I said, then why does his insult have power over you? He spoke a lie. You know it's a lie. So why are you carrying it as if it were true? That student learned something that day. He learned that another person's judgment is not a fact. It's just their opinion, shaped by their own fears, their own pride, their own ignorance. And when you take it personally, when you let it wound you, you are agreeing with them. You are saying, yes, maybe you're right. Maybe I am what you say I am. But you don't have to do that. You can hear the insult, see it for what it is, and let it pass. Not because you are weak, but because you know who you are, and their words have no authority over that. This is what I mean when I say most of your suffering comes, not from what happens, but from your judgment about what happens. You think the problem is the rude comment, the betrayal, the loss, but the problem is what you tell yourself about it, the story you build, the meaning you assign. Let's say you're at a family gathering. Your adult son speaks to you in a tone that feels dismissive. He cuts you off mid-sentence, doesn't ask your opinion, treats you like your thoughts don't matter. You feel hurt. You feel disrespected. You think, after everything I did for him, this is how he treats me? And the rest of the evening, you're quiet. You're withdrawn. You replay the moment. You imagine what you should have said. You wonder if he even notices. You go home and you're still upset, maybe for days. Now let me ask you, what hurt you? Was it his tone? Or was it the story you told yourself about his tone? Was it his words, or was it your belief that those words meant he doesn't respect you, doesn't love you, doesn't value everything you've done? Because if you take the event by itself, a son speaking in a certain way, it's just a moment. It comes and it goes. But you added meaning to it. You made it about your worth. You made it about the past, about sacrifices, about what you deserve. And all of that, the meaning, the story, the emotional weight, that's yours. He didn't give you that. You gave it to yourself. If I were there, I would have said, let it be what it is. He spoke in a way you didn't like. That's all. You don't know why. Maybe he's stressed. Maybe he's distracted. Maybe he's struggling with something he hasn't told you. Or maybe he's thoughtless. Either way, it's his action, not your identity. You can let it go. You can choose not to build a story around it. You can choose not to carry it. This is the practice. This is the discipline. Not pretending it didn't happen, but refusing to let it define your peace. You cannot control how your son speaks to you. You cannot control whether your employer values you. You cannot control how people treat you, remember you, or think about you. But you can control whether you let those things steal your calm. And that is where your power is. That is where your freedom is. I see so many of you giving your peace away to people who don't even know they took it. You lie awake thinking about what someone said 3 years ago. You hold on to anger towards someone who has forgotten the argument entirely. You wait for apologies that will never come. You build cases in your mind, collecting evidence of how you were wronged, as if one day there will be a trial and you'll be vindicated. But there is no trial. There is no judge. There is only you, carrying a burden that no one else even remembers. Let me tell you what I learned in chains. I learned that outer freedom is fragile. It can be taken by force, by law, by violence, by circumstance. But inner freedom, freedom of the mind, cannot be taken. It can only be surrendered. And most people surrender it every day without realizing it. They give it to their anger, their fear, their need to be right, their need to be respected. They give it to the past, to things that cannot be changed. They give it to people who do not care. I am not saying this to shame you. I am saying it because I want you to see what you're doing so you can stop. You have lived long enough to know that. Holding on to bitterness does not heal you. You have lived long enough to know that waiting for someone else to change does not bring you peace. You have lived long enough to know that you cannot control the world. So stop trying. Start controlling what you can, your thoughts, your reactions, your judgments, your inner dialogue. Let me give you another example. one I think many of you will recognize. A woman in her late 50s has been caring for her aging mother. She does everything: doctor's appointments, medications, meals, companionship. Her brother, who lives 2 hours away, barely calls. He doesn't help. He doesn't visit. And when he does show up, he criticizes. He says the house isn't clean enough. The care isn't good enough. She's not doing enough. She feels rage. She feels invisible. She thinks, "Where were you? Where have you been while I've been doing this alone?" She wants him to see her sacrifice. She wants him to apologize, to acknowledge what she's done. But he doesn't. And she's exhausted, not just from the caregiving, but from the anger she's carrying toward him. If I were there, I would have told her this: you are doing something noble. You are caring for your mother because you believe it is right, because you love her, because you chose to. That is enough. Your brother's failure to help does not diminish what you are doing. His criticism does not define the quality of your care. You are not doing this for his approval. You are doing this because it aligns with who you are. So let him be who he is. Let him criticize. Let him stay away. That is his choice, and he will live with whatever that means. But do not let his choices take your peace. Do not let his absence or his words convince you that what you're doing doesn't matter. It matters because you are doing it, not because he acknowledges it. This is hard, I know, because you want fairness. You want people to see the truth. You want your effort to be recognized. But recognition is not in your control. And if you make your peace dependent on it, you will never have peace. You will spend your life waiting for people to finally understand, finally appreciate, finally see you the way you deserve to be seen. And they may never do it. So what then? Would you have wasted all that time being angry? I am telling you, do what is right because it is right. Not because it will be noticed. Not because it will be rewarded. Not because it will be fair. Do it because you have decided that this is who you are, and no one's reaction can change that. There is a deep freedom in this, a freedom that comes when you stop needing the world to cooperate with your expectations. When you stop needing people to behave the way you think they should. When you stop needing life to be fair. It won't be. It never has been. But you can still be steady. You can still be whole. You can still be free. I also want to talk to those of you facing illness, facing the limits of your body, facing the reality that time is not unlimited. I lived in a body that was damaged young. I walked with a limp. I lived with pain. And I learned that the body is not the self. The body is something you have, not something you are. When your body weakens, when your health fails, when you can no longer do what you once did, it does not mean you have lost your worth. It means circumstances have changed, and circumstances always change. What does not have to change is your mind, your character, your ability to meet life with dignity. I have seen men lose everything: health, wealth, reputation, and still remain unbroken because they understood this. And I have seen men lose very little and fall apart because they believed their value was tied to things outside themselves. You are not your job. You are not your body. You are not your bank account or your status or the respect others give you. You are the one who chooses how to respond. That is all you are, and that is everything. So if you are lying in a hospital bed, or sitting in a retirement home, or struggling with a diagnosis that has changed everything, I would say this to you: you still have your mind. You still have your ability to think clearly, to choose your attitude, to decide what this moment means. No illness can take that unless you let it. No loss can steal that unless you surrender it. Your freedom is still intact. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this sounds good, but it's not that simple. You don't understand how deeply I've been hurt. You don't know what they did. And you're right. I don't know your specific pain, but I do know this: holding on to it will not undo it. Anger will not reverse the harm. Bitterness will not bring justice. And the person who hurt you is not lying awake, thinking about it the way you are. So who is suffering? Only you. I am not asking you to forgive in the sense of saying what happened was okay. I am asking you to release your grip on it so it stops choking you. I am asking you to see that every moment you spend rehashing the past is a moment you are not free, and you deserve to be free. Let me tell you what I think freedom really is. It is not the absence of hardship. It is not a life where everything goes your way. It is the ability to stand in the middle of difficulty and say, this is hard, but I am not broken. This is unfair, but I am not helpless. This is painful, but I am still whole. That is freedom. That is strength. And it is available to you right now, no matter what you are facing. You do not need better circumstances. You do not need other people to change. You do not need the past to be different. You only need to stop arguing with reality and start working with it. This is what I taught my students, and this is what I am teaching you now. Stop fighting what you cannot control. Stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be at peace. Stop letting other people's actions determine your state of mind. Take your mind back. Decide what matters. Decide who you are, and let the rest go. I want to end with this. You have lived a long time. You have seen enough to know that life is not always kind, that people are not always fair, that effort is not always rewarded. You have probably been disappointed, betrayed, overlooked, hurt, and maybe you have carried those things with you, thinking that one day they would be resolved, that one day you would get closure, that one day it would all make sense. But what if that day never comes? What if the apology never arrives? What if the person never understands? What if life never explains itself? Will you spend the rest of your time waiting? Or will you decide right now that you do not need those things to be free? Because you don't. You never did. Your peace does not depend on anyone else. Your worth does not depend on recognition. Your dignity does not depend on fairness. It depends only on you, on whether you choose to see clearly, to think clearly, to live clearly. That is the only control you have ever had, and it is enough. So stop giving your mind away. Stop letting the past hold you. Stop letting other people's opinions define you. You are more than what happened to you. You are more than what they said about you. You are the one who gets to decide what your life means, what your pain means, what your choices mean. And that power has been yours all along. I was a slave who became freer than most men who were never in chains. Not because my circumstances changed, but because I understood what could not be taken from me. And I am telling you now, the same freedom is available to you. Not someday, not when things get better. Right now. You just have to stop fighting what you cannot control and start commanding what you can. Your mind, your peace, your response. Do that, and you will find something. Most people search for their entire lives and never find. You will find yourself unshakable. Not because nothing touches you, but because you have learned to stand steady no matter what comes. That is wisdom. That is freedom. And it has always been within your reach.